Okay, jumping right in. We have been talking about a biblical concept of budgeting and money and what you do with that, which has been fantastic. The Bible has a lot to say about money, and kind of interestingly, from my perspective, I actually am finishing up a book that I'm authoring again. This is a very different book from my memoir. And this one is on the biblical concept of tithing your time and your money. And it's something that we, I think, don't talk about enough. And a big part of this was written for not only Christians, but people in ministry. And in ministry, you are very prone to poverty. And I don't think it's because of ministry, I think it's because of our mindset and how people view biblical concepts of money. The Christian Chronicle wrote a story not that long ago, I think within the last year or two, and it was about retirement for ministers. And it showed that in churches, over 80% of ministers are not offered retirement as part of their package. Maybe in one of those, I'm in that 80%, which you don't hear me complaining about that. You see, there's this mindset where people say, well, I need to find a better job. I need to find a job that offers better benefits, and I'm being taken advantage of, and on it goes. Well, I remind people that people who are self-employed, people who are entrepreneurs, don't get benefits. They have to buy their own benefits, their own retirement, their own health care, all of that. And so automatically there's this mindset, but also within Christianity, and I wrote about this, I said we kind of have this mindset of poverty, where poverty is praised among Christians, that we're told you kind of bleed your account dry for the sake of the kingdom. And especially if you're in a position of ministry. And that's kind of permeated the Christian realm. And so people take this vow of poverty as kind of a badge of honor, right? That I'm supposed to be poor. God wants me to be poor. And unfortunately, what that translates to is when people pass away, they end up leaving tremendous debt for their family, which is not a biblical concept. And so I wanted to take kind of a deeper look at that and show that you don't have to make a lot of money at all to build wealth. And it's actually a lot easier than what people think. So it's a way to encourage people. And I know I have many friends who are living in absolute poverty. They're in ministry and they are in debt, beyond their eyeballs. And so their mentality is, well, I need to go back now and work on my doctorate. Well, what does that do? It's kind of a twofold thing, but what does that do financially? It digs you into a deeper hole. What does that do for you to position yourself to better your pay, according to all of the statistics? Abilene Christian puts out statistics, and they show, based on your degree.
If you're just a minister?
Yeah,
Nothing.
Exactly. Maybe at a bigger church, you might get a little bit of a bump.
Like a professor or something, then
yeah.
Obviously is important.
But our professors don't get paid that well either. So there's a better way. But we've gone over this parable, but I want to use this as a lead-in because it's just fascinating to me, and the theology behind this is really cool, and that's what I want to focus on. We've talked about this, but I want to break this down a little bit more. So we're all familiar with it, the parable of the talents in Matthew 25, 14 through 30. For it will be like, what's he talking about? What is Jesus talking about in this context? It will be like. And then he tells this story about the talents. Yeah, the kingdom of heaven. So essentially, what's Jesus talking about?
People working in the church.
Yeah, the kingdom. He's talking about kingdom work. It will be like. The kingdom will be like, and then he relates it to money, and he uses this example that everybody's familiar with, at least in ancient days. Not so much anymore because we've been reprogrammed to think about money. Think about some of the terms that we use. Now, I'm not going to get political. That's not at all where I want to go with this. But think about some of the terminology that we use. Those rich people. Fill in some of these blanks. ... They're so spoiled. What else? The G word. Greedy. What do they do to the middle class? Yeah, they oppress the middle class. Us poor victims who live in one of the richest nations in the entire world. They oppress the middle class. What else? Way more than they need. Yeah, they're taking away from other people. That's right. Not paying their fair share. There you go. Good old tagline. What else? The rich get, and the poor get poor, which is true or false? Wrong. True. The rich get richer, and the poor get poorer. Yeah, it's absolutely true.
Sorry, I was
Yeah, but there's a reason for that, and it's
I would say it's true if they got rich by using their money wisely.
right.
Those
Yeah,
who win
exactly.
the lottery or
Yeah, the lottery winners.
they usually just
Yeah, they don't get richer. Yeah, lottery winners don't get richer. But you know, there's a book called The Millionaire Next Door, which is excellent. I just finished it not that long ago, and it shows that the average millionaire in the United these concepts of money. Now, I'm going to tie that into the biblical concept of money and compounding. But keep in mind here, what Jesus is talking about is the kingdom. So if you don't have the kingdom mentality like this, you're not going to have a money mentality of growth and expanding. And so the two are so tied together. So let's walk through this. The kingdom, right? It'll be like this. A man going on a journey who called his servant and entrusted to them his property. To one, clearly he's talking about God. God is the master here. To one he gave 5 talents, to another 2, to another 1, to each according to his ability. In other words, God gave it out. He gave the talents to people according to what they're able to do with it. Then he went away. He who had received the 5 talents went at once and traded with them. And he made 5 talents more. He doubled it. Also the one who had the 2 talents made 2 talents more. He doubled it. But he who had received the 1 talent went and dug into the ground and hid his master's money. Now after a long time, I kind of voted. Yeah.
Grab that mic.
Oh.
You're done, I think. Is it on?
Yeah. Whoops, wrong. Well, no, that'll work too. I'm gonna do this. Hello, everybody. Sorry about that. These guys were waving me down, and I was in my own little zone. Like a little freight train, once I get started, I just don't stop. All right, this thing should pick me up multi-directional, so I'll just kind of put it beside me. Now, after a long time, and I want to focus on that here in a little bit, the master of those servants came and settled accounts with them. And he who had received the 5 talents came forward, bringing 5 talents more, saying, Master, you delivered me 5 talents. Here, I've made 5 talents more. His master said to him, Well done, good and faithful servant. You've been faithful over a little. I will set you over much. The rich get what? They get richer. Why? Because yeah, they took what God has given them and they were wise with it. They manage what God gave them, they manage that well. That's called stewardship. Enter into the joy of your master. And also, he also, who had the 2 talents, came forward saying, Master, you delivered me 2 talents. Here, I've made 2 talents more. His master said to him, well done, good and faithful servant. You've been faithful over little, I will set you over much. Enter into the joy of your master. He also, who had received the 1 talent, came forward saying, Master, I knew you to be a hard man, reaping where you did not sow, and gathering where you scattered no seed. So I was afraid, and I went and hid your talent in the ground. Here, you have what is yours. But his master answered him, you wicked and slothful servant. You knew that I reap where I do not sow, and I gather where I scattered, and gather where I scattered no seed. Then you ought to have invested my money with the bankers, and at my coming I should have received what was my own with interest. So take the talent from him and give it to the one who has the 10 talents. For to everyone who has will more be given, and he will have an abundance. But from the one who has not, even what he has will be taken away. And cast the worthless servant into the outer darkness, in that place where there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth. The very next passage is what our theme is for this year. It's the giving water to the person who's thirsty, giving clothing to the person who's naked, those sorts of things, and visiting the person in prison. And they come back and they're like, well, Master, when did we ever see you thirsty and give you a drink? Or when did we see you hungry and feed you? Or when did we see you in prison and visit you? And what's his answer? Whatever you did to the least one of these, my brothers, you did it to me. And then he casts them out. Because why? And these stories are very related because they didn't do what? They didn't take what God gave them and put it to work. The talents, the abilities, even the money. I've seen so many churches close their doors because they do not have money. This congregation invested. It was a very wise thing. They invested, they put the dollars to work, and now we're able to do ministries that we would never be able to do otherwise. Period. Our missions, to my knowledge, since I've been here 16 years, our missions budget has never gone down, but it has always gone up. And if you look at our budget back there, with just a few deaths, and just kind of the makeup of the congregation, we're not a rich congregation. Most of our people here make very modest money at best, but we're wealthy. We've built wealth to be able to carry the Lord's work forward. Isn't that what we all ought to strive for? All right, so there's this doubling, right? After a long time, the master came back. Well, what's a long time? What does it take to double something? Anybody ever hear of the rule of 72? All right. Yeah. So let's re-shake hands with the principle of 72. What is the rule of 72? Our bean counter. Yeah, to calculate how long it takes what you have to double. Using compound interest, my favorite principle. So what's fascinating is there's a very deep theological concept behind this principle of 72, and I don't think that mathematicians really knew that this was actually a biblical concept, but here's how it's broken down. 72, the principle of 72, to come up with that number you have, and look at the symmetry here. You have 2 to the third power times 3 to the second power. So you have 2, 3, 3, 2. 2 in the Bible is very significant. And 2 is always pairs that equal unity. 2 that equal 1. The 2 will leave and become what? One flesh. The animals entered the ark, what? 2 by 2. Over and over and over, you find this principle throughout the scriptures. So 2 to the third power, and 3, by the way, is completeness, and it's unity. 3 is it's a root of 9, and the number 9 is very significant in Judaism. but 3 to the second power. So essentially, if we could say 2 in Judaism, 2 would be related to man, and 3 is related to God. There's Father, Son, Spirit. You see this Trinity throughout the Scriptures. You find it appearing over and over and over. It's what? 1. It's united. So essentially you have 8 times 9 equals 72. 9 is 3 times itself, so thrice complete. And the ancients knew, excuse me, stupid allergies. The ancients knew that 9 was really significant, and if you times things, times 9, that when you add them together, it comes back to what? 9. So 8 times 9 is what? 81. 8 plus 1, it always brings you back to the number 9. All right? So there is, Charles looks like he's very confused or... Oh, yeah. Right. So here's some cool things about in the Bible. The number 72 is, it's not frequently mentioned in the Bible, but it is very important. So 72 is not as frequently mentioned as numbers like 7, 12, 40, etc. But one of the most prominent occurrences of 72 in the New Testament is in Luke, and we're going to look at that passage. It's when Jesus sends out the 72, and he sends them out, 2 by 2. 72 also in Genesis 10 is the number of, when you calculate the genealogy, it comes to 72 that spread all throughout the world, right? After the flood, the tribes begin to reproduce, and they go out into all the world, and you have 72 different subgroups. The Septuagint. What is the Septuagint? It's a Greek translation of the Old Testament. So in about the 3rd century BC, the Jewish people were told you need to translate the Old Testament into Greek. There were 72 elders. And what's fascinating about that is tradition says that they went off independently, translated the Hebrew scriptures into Greek. When they came back, they reconvened. They put down the manuscripts all side by side, all 72 of them, and there was not one word that was different. Independently of each other, they had all translated the same words, the same grammar. All of it was the same. And so it's this miraculous working of the Holy Spirit through that process. And so we find this throughout the Scriptures. So there cannot be significant growth without the completeness of God, as I had part of, but it is the equation. You remove God, and it doesn't work. All right, Luke chapter 10, with that in mind, look at this. After the Lord appointed 72 others and sent them on ahead of him, 2 by 2, into every town and place where he himself was about to go. And he said to them, the harvest is plentiful, but the laborers are few. Therefore pray earnestly to the Lord of the harvest to send out laborers into his harvest. What's the point of this? It's about multiplying, being fruitful, multiplying the kingdom. Go your way, behold, I'm sending you out as lambs into the midst of wolves. Carry no money bag, no knapsack, no sandals, and greet no one on the road. Who is the provider here? It's God. This is a case in point that God is the provider. He's the one who provides the multiplication. Other places, the Lord blank, blank, blank to the church daily, those who are being saved. He added to the church, right? God is the one who adds. Whatever house you enter, first say peace to this house. And if a son of peace is there, your peace will rest upon him. But if not, it will return to you. And remain in the same house, eating and drinking what they provide, for the laborer deserves his wages. Do not go from house to house. Whenever you enter a town and they receive you, eat what is set before you. Heal the sick in it, and say to them, the kingdom of God has come near to you. But whenever you enter a town and they do not receive you, go into its streets and say, even the dust of your town that clings to our feet we wipe off against you. Nevertheless, know this, that the kingdom of God has come near. I tell you, it will be more bearable on that day for Sodom than for that town. This verse ought to make us shudder as much as all the other verses where God and where Jesus are talking about reproducing for God's kingdom, and you fail to do it as Christians. And I've never been one to roll over and say, well, church is dead. There's nothing more we can do. There's always more we can do. There's always more that we can do. And over, God is telling us, I'm telling you the harvest is there. You all need to go out, and you need to figure out how to multiply. And God does the multiplication. We just need to work. So it drives me crazy when I hear things like, the excuses. Well, I just don't make enough money. I don't have benefits, right? I could easily use that excuse and say, I don't get benefits. My response is, so what? What are we doing about it? How are we rectifying that? How are we being stewards of what God has given us, and how do we reproduce that? So that's what we're talking about here. I like this quote, money is like a cruel mistress. If you don't pay attention to her, she'll leave you for someone else. Where does our money go? Where does it disappear to? Does it disappear? Does it vanish? Yeah, we pass it on to somebody else, right? We pass that money on. Somebody else gets every dollar that we spend. Somebody else gets it. And if you don't pay attention to her, the same is true in the kingdom. If we don't pay attention to each other in the church, what happens to people? They settle off somewhere. They become someone else's. Whether it's another church, another denomination, they renounce God. They become Satan's. People don't just disappear. They go off somewhere. People who leave every church go somewhere. They don't just wander off and disappear. So how we pay attention to it is really important. Here's a rule of 72 and how long it takes for an investment to double. I think Brent showed this too, but based on percentages. So if you look in the middle, here it is. I had my clicker thingy. If you look at here, this is on average what the market has done historically. Right about 10% is considered fairly conservative. If you're gaining 10%, whatever you invest, after 7 years, it will double. All right, let's look at what that looks like on a chart. Let's say at the age of 10, you open I'll talk about an UTMA, and what an UTMA is. We actually opened one for each of our 3 kids. Let's say that you're 10 years old and you have $1,500. The parents put $1,500 in and they never put another dime in, ever. They never touch it again. They just let that principle of 72 go to work. At the age of 65, they will have $283,588.71. And so we come up with excuses all the time. We're like, well, I just don't have enough money. I can't do it. Over 50% of Americans live paycheck to paycheck. Over 50%. That means they have exactly this much in savings or retirement or anywhere else. Over 50%. And that's not a judgment. That's just saying what the numbers are. That's where we are as Americans. And this is literally the simplest thing that we can do to put our kids on a path of success. All right, now let's look at it this way. If we compound it with interest, let's add the 10% or keep the 10%, but you're finding a way to come up with $200 a month. Then when your kid becomes an adult, they continue to contribute to that $200 a month. That $283,000 has now become over $6 million. This is not even a retirement account. This is just play money, an investment account that they just continue to contribute to. They took the baton and they continue to contribute, not a ton of money, $200 a month shouldn't break a young adult's bank or an adult, unless you have health problems or something else that, this is under normal circumstances. What about adding a retirement account? So you have this account of $6 million by the time you're 65. By the way, this is kind of cool. It is my birthday. DP is going to remind people of this, I'm sure. In 2 days, it's my birthday. I turn 46 years old. Look at this. By the way, Isaac is 10 years old. And Isaac has an investment account, which we add to. Let's pretend this is Isaac for a minute. He keeps pumping in $200 a month, never a dollar more. At my age, he hits his first million. All right, what's the rule of 72? At 10% after 7 years, it doubles, but he's adding more money, so it's more like 6 years or 5.5 or something like that. So his first million is at my age, 46 or 47. Where's 2 million? 52, 53? What about 3 million? He's still in his 50s. What about 4? 62? What about 5? Not even in his mid-60s. Or sorry, we're up here. I already passed it. 62, you hit 4 million, 5 million, and 6 million while you're still in your 60s. So people say the hardest thing is to hit your first million. And once you hit that, you'll hear wealthy people say this. After that, it's super easy to get another million. This is why. So then let's say that your kid decides to add a Roth IRA at the age of 20. They land a really good job. They're making, say, they start out at $45,000 a year, and they decide, well, in addition to this account, I want to open up a Roth IRA, which is what Natalie and I both have. It's an IRA is individual retirement account. I have a Roth IRA. Say that you max it out. The government says you can put $7,000 in a year. At 8%, which is very conservative, you're at $3 million by the time you're 65. All right? At 10%, what do you think that would jump to? Just 2% more. Market does a little bit better than 8%. What do you think that 3 million jumps to? Any guesses? I know you're not going to do the math. Close. A little over 6. More than doubles. All right, so that's the importance of compound interest. Then you could add a 401k. If you work a job that offers a 401k, you can do a Roth IRA and a 401k. It'd be hard to do, I'm not going to lie. You'd have to be very good at budgeting, but you add at 8%, maxing that out, you'd have over $7 million by the time you're 65. But you didn't start at 20. You waited till you were a little bit established. You started at age 25. So you see how that's called a market portfolio. You're adding different accounts, and you just begin to build wealth. So as that translates to churches, what can we do as a church to create a portfolio of investing in people in our community? A lot of people only say, well, we'll just invite people to church. And my question is, what else are you doing? How else are you investing the talents that God's given you to let God do this principle of growth and let God work? Most churches are not doing anything. So it's really fascinating. All right, I want to go to this other document here. Actually, Dave, if you want to pull that up. I just want to show the different vehicles for investing. Can you get to it? Here, let me just, there we go. We'll open her again because I couldn't find it. All right, so these are the ones that I do. And I want to be transparent. I'm not going to tell you what's in these accounts, but I want to tell you what I did and why we started doing this. So the first thing that both Natalie and I did, we opened a Roth IRA. Okay, that's the cool thing about this is that this is post-tax money, which means after your taxes have been taken out, you put your money in, and it grows 100% tax-free, and you withdraw 100% tax-free. That means if I have, it's not going to happen, but if I have like $5 million in that account, I pay exactly this much in taxes. Not on a Roth. On a traditional, you do. Yeah, right. They just function differently. And the math kind of works out. You talked about that too. The math kind of works out pretty similarly, unless you get bumped up a tax bracket. Right. So we have that account, which is vital. It's important. And there's also the principle of pulling out 4% per year. It's the 4% rule, which says you can pull 4% out of an account and ride that account and never run out of money, essentially. Because it's growing at a rate of 10%, you're withdrawing at a rate of 4%. And so we calculate and we figure out, okay, what's our target age? What's our target amount? Like, we plan for all of that. You have to plan. Like, you can't just guess and pull random numbers out and be like, I want to retire at 52. Well, good luck. You know, if there's no plan, good luck. So we have our target date, age, and we also have our target amount, which says we want to be able to live off of this amount, and we don't even factor in Social Security. I do not factor that in one single penny into our retirement. I just assume it's not going to be there, which is conservative, but I just don't trust it. I don't trust that it's going to be there by the time I retire. So the Roth IRA has been a beautiful way to build wealth for retirement. I wish every single minister was put through a class that teaches them about retirement. We were not at all. In graduate school, I spent 9 years in undergraduate and graduate school, and they did not talk at all about retirement. Nothing. I know, yeah, not this one. Not making plans, Brent. So then the UTMA we also have the UTMA accounts with the kids. That's a Universal Transfer to Minors Act. And what that is you can open an investment account for your kids, and you can put money into that, and you can pick whatever you want. We happen to pick, and I'll tell you exactly what the kids settled on. They picked the VTI, which is the Vanguard Total Investment Account. And it's a whole bunch of companies, and it diversifies it automatically. We don't have to think about it. We don't have to process it. The costs are really low, and it's gaining a return of right now. It's been doing really well, but around like 11-12%. And so our kids get to log in, and they get to see how much money they made versus their capital. So what they put in and how much they made, and their eyes get real big, and they're like, wow. I'm like, well, wait until it really starts to compound and you keep adding money to that, even if it's $5. And I tell them, if you mow the yard and we give you $15, take a portion of that and put it into that. And they've been really disciplined with doing that, and they're watching that grow, and it's really cool. So, you know, if you max out your Roth IRA, we also opened up for the adults, we opened up a taxable brokerage account. And what that is a tax-advantaged account. You get decent taxes, but you can invest in whatever you want. You literally get to pick whatever you want. We also do, in that account, we do the VTI mostly, but then I have a couple others, like I picked a more risky stock, ironically in nuclear power, because everybody's all focused on wind and energy, and I've researched, and I'm like, we have a demand for electricity like you wouldn't believe, and nuclear power is being revived. And So it's some ETFs, exchange-traded funds, with a very low cost that diversifies across a bunch of different companies in nuclear. And then, there are a couple other ones that are also ETFs, exchange-traded funds that go across multiple companies, like 400 or 500 different companies. They're very safe. And people say, well, if you invest in the stock market, you're going to lose. It's risky. You're going to lose that money. It's risky if you're buying individual stocks because nobody can predict what they're going to do. But if you diversify that, it's really fascinating, and it's very safe. So that's how we diversify. We set our kids up for success. They will assume that account when they become 21 years old in Pennsylvania. That's the age of majority. And that money is 100% theirs. We can't touch it. We can't breathe on it. We can't look at it. It is 100% theirs legally. They can do with it what they want. If they want to go blow it and buy a Lamborghini, they can do that. I hope that's not what they do. They can use it for a down payment on a house. They can literally whatever they want, or they can continue to invest in that. And that's what we're going to encourage. And then the Roth IRA, and then if you're able to max that out, which we only recently were able to do, in all honesty. It took a long time to get to that point. But then you take whatever's left and you open up a taxable brokerage account.
One thing I forget if I mentioned whenever we talked about the investment earlier, the little bit that I did on it, with the IRAs and 401ks, you can't access that.
Right.
You don't have
Yeah.
access to that without penalty until certain ages and things like that. While that, I'm assuming that taxable brokerage account you can access.
Oh, anytime. Yeah. Right. So, with a caveat with that, I would say your Roth IRA, you can pull out your capital, what you put into it. You can pull out before 59 and a half. I don't recommend doing it, but you can pull that out. You just can't pull out anything that's the growth portion of it without penalty, and they will shellac you. Don't ever recommend it. But we just assume we're never going to touch that before the age of 59 and a half. There's no reason to.
If you pull it out, you get the 10% penalty, plus, of course, you're increasing your income, so you're getting tax on it, and you're taking away your compounding interest on whatever was in there.
Yeah, it's not pretty.
It's like a triple.
Exactly. But that's what's nice about the taxable account is, it's a very aggressive growth. And literally, this is just extra money. We have no purpose for it. We wanted to invest, and we wanted to be aggressive. And 5 years down the road, if we want to do whatever we want, go on a fancy vacation, which is not what we would do. It's not in us to do that. But you can literally use that for whatever you want, and it is very liquid. All right, we're out of time there, but I just wanted to show you guys that and encourage you that even at any age, you can start. We started very late, and we're on track to retire at a nice, not super early age, but we'll be all right. But it takes planning. You have to plan. So if anybody has any other questions about how we do it, what investments we pick, in the Roth IRA, we chose the Target account, which is fantastic. We don't have to think about it. I don't have to pick what goes in that. It's fantastic. So if anybody has any questions at any point, just let me know, and I'll be happy to answer them. We'll see you all in about 15 minutes.